Good morning, everyone. My name is Tom, and today I'm going to be sharing a few reflections on Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 to 27. So I'll share a quick summary, and then I will just give you a few things that struck me while I was reading it, and hopefully that encourages you. Hopefully it gives you some insight onto this passage. So, in summary, this passage starts with Paul praising the lordship of Christ in relation to creation and the redemption story. It's a real declaration of submission to his lordship and worship of who he is and the authority and honour that he requires as a result of what he's done for us. Then moves on to talk about the meaning of reconciliation for the church of the Colossians, and the price that's been paid and the transformation that has occurred as a result of that, and the way that our lives should be lived in response to that. And then the last section moves on to talking about Paul's own labours for the gospel and the power of the gospel in our own lives. So just a few things that struck me as I was reflecting on these verses. The first thing is just the power and, I guess, bigness of God. I couldn't think of a better word for it. It talks about by him all things were created, through him and for him, in him all things hold together. Offers a reassurance in the midst of battles and challenges that God is still greater, bigger and in control. It reminded me how often and how easy it can be for us to put God into a box. And I think I was really struck by just how great God is, how in control he is of every situation. It gives you a real perspective on the battles we're facing, the challenges in life, the stresses and strains of day-to-day living, knowing that God is bigger than that. He's above all things. He created all things, and he holds all things in his hands. And I just find those really encouraging verses when, times are difficult, when there's a lot going on. So that was the first thing that struck me. I was also struck by the reconciliation and forgiveness that's described in these verses. It talks about us being separated from him, living in sin, and that by his death we have been reconciled and we've been made holy. Christ has paid the price for my failures and my shortcomings by his death. And it's so easy to lose sight of that. We often write ourselves off because of the things we've done or the way we've behaved, all the sins that we keep repeating and falling back into. And again, these verses are just, a reminder that we have been made holy. It's not anything we can do. We don't earn forgiveness. We don't earn holiness. It's a price that's been paid for us by Jesus on the cross, that gives us that access, gives us that relationship. It makes us holy. It's not something we do. We don't make ourselves holy. We don't have to say prayers in a certain way or behave in a certain way or do these certain things to make ourselves holy. That's a price that's been paid. That's something that's been done for us. That's our identity, is that holiness. And the last thing that struck me are those amazing words at the end of this section that are the hallmark of the new covenant. And that's talking about Christ being in us, the hope of glory, God himself directly and personally involved in our lives, and the assurance that brings of a future life with him. How much peace and confidence should that bring us as followers of Jesus? That we have that access, that Christ lives in us, that he is with us, present and personally involved in every situation in our lives, and that we have that hope of eternity with him. How much does that bring into perspective everything that we face? How does that impact us in the day-to-day, that we have that relationship, that intimacy with Christ, as a result of this new covenant, as a result of what Christ did for us, as a result of the Holy Spirit? How would that change the way that we live every day and see ourselves if we reminded ourselves more often of this truth? That we have Christ living in us and that we have an assurance by following him. And that's what I was really challenged by today, that last little bit of how can I live my life differently as a result of knowing that Christ is with me, that I have God with me every day, that he is in every situation with me, he is alongside me in all those situations. How would I live my life differently? How would I respond differently? And so that's what I kind of reflected on reading these verses, and that's what I want to encourage you to do today, is maybe spend some time now just asking God what ways you can impact those around you differently. How can you approach situations, challenges, life differently, knowing that we have Christ in us, the hope of glory? Have a blessed day, everyone, and I'll hopefully see you all soon.